So, welcome to today's MindPrime Podcast. And in today's episode, I've got such a special guest. She is a lady that almost walks between worlds. She's a spiritual coach, which she is also a psychic, but she's also involved in helping men move beyond trauma, which I'm really excited to talk to her about. So, welcome to the show, Resmi.
Thank you so much, Louise. It's so lovely to be here. I keep looking at you and there's this aura around you.
Oh,
That is sort of
hey, is it a good one?
it's very, yeah.
Oh,
Of
I love
course
it.
it is. It's like almost like you blend into the oneness of purity and it's like so white. It just
Oh,
like, yeah. So
really?
although the other colors are there, the blue and the purple, I feel like there's a white shine or a glow that's
Oh,
really,
I love
yeah,
that.
thank you.
Oh,
I
that's
think
nice.
it's great.
I'm like likeness of God.
Yeah, the lightness of God. I love that.
So good to have you on. I know a lot of people are going to have this question about, many people who say that their psychic abilities, did you have it from childhood? And that's what a lot of people expect people to have known. Was that true for you?
I didn't know until I was 30. I didn't know that what I did was different to what other people did.
Ooh. Okay.
I sort of had a rude awakening. I mean, I had little hints of things, but I never took it seriously.
Did you just think it was normal?
Yeah, I thought everybody did it. Oh my God, this is why is everybody cross at me when I say things? Because, they must see it, they must know it. Why are people cross? And then I started thinking to myself, well, maybe because, this whole thing about being a prim and proper, a woman that's seen and not heard, I started thinking that that's what it was. I thought that they were trying to make me a proper woman, a proper lady, because, you
Yeah.
know, the spirit wanted to share a message. They would speak up. They would just sort of channel through and speak up. And I would walk around telling things. People would just look at me and think, what's wrong with this child? That kind of thing. And of course,
When you was little, you used to walk up and tell people stuff about themselves.
yeah, there was a lady and she'd been having problems having a child. And then she did something or said something. And I said, what are you worried about? I said, the baby knows, the baby that you're carrying knows. And everybody just looked at me and I thought, what the heck? And then
Yeah.
I got chewed away from the kitchen where they were all gossiping. I'm like, oh, okay, I've done it again. They're telling me off again. So I retreated and then went off. And yeah, so to me, it wasn't abnormal. To me, I thought every single person could see and do and feel what I'm feeling.
Wow. And so what happened when you're like 30 to make you realize that it was, oh no.
A number of things. My ex-husband and I went camping, and this lad came up, and he was quite worse for wear with alcohol already, begging my friends and I and my ex, for a beer. Just give me another can. Just I just want another. You don't have any spares, I just want a can and a cigarette. And they were all like, "Well, all right." And I was like, "No." This voice came through me. It's like, "No, you can't have that. You're going to kill your new kidney."
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And I sat there thinking, what the hell? Where did this word come from? And he goes, how the F do you know? And he lifted up his t-shirt and he had a scar that was bandaged. He'd just had a kidney transplant.
Ooh. That just gave me goosebumps.
It was really freaky. And I was like, what the heck? And my ex, he said to him, what did she just do? He goes, oh, she does that all the time. Yeah, do I?
Do I?
And then I sort of started recalling little things. I used to have dreams about people and I had to tell him about the dreams, and the next day it would happen or whatever. So he said, yeah, there's just, he also, like me, taking it for normal. It's like, yeah, that's her. It happens around her. It's fine.
Yeah.
Then the next thing was I was working for a management consultancy firm, and they sort of stopped me one day after a meeting and we were having a bit of a giggle and everything else. And then I just said stop because they were being a bit raucous. Just stop because this walked up to the switchboard and answered the phone, and they all started laughing. And what is it? I had this habit of sort of walking around with my skirt in my habits. I don't, but I once walked from home to work all the way in the summer with a summer dress tucked in my pants, and nobody told me, and that was it.
Oh no. I hate that when people never tell you.
I'm very self-conscious of something about me is not, prim and proper. But anyway, I finished the call and I'm like, what the F? What are you guys laughing at me about? And he's like, you do that all the time. How'd you do that? And I said, do what? And this was in the 90s before we had the caller ID. And it
Oh,
was a
yeah.
switchboard. And it was like, You pick up the phone before it rings, you answer with the person's name, and you have the file in hand and you have the answer. When we come into work, we have files on our desks we haven't asked for. There's no appointment scheduled for that person or that company. And you've got the file with the answer next to their question in the file. How the heck do you do that?
Wow. Do you know, a
Yeah,
lot of companies would like that.
they would, wouldn't
You're predicting the needs before it's even happened. That's incredible.
they? Yeah. So
Did you
that's
notice
when
it at that point?
sorry?
Did you notice it at that point?
And I said, don't we all do it? And that's when it started coming up that actually people don't normally do this.
Yeah, I
People
guess.
like, what? Oh, is that a bit weird then? Like, yeah, none of us do it. And what, how do you know? How do you do this? And then my marriage broke up during that year, and so I was quite stressed. My sister sort of, she was going through a bit of a tough time and introduced me to Reiki.
Ooh.
And I went to my Reiki sessions, and I was at that point, I had become quite sort of logical and practical, and this thing, didn't make
Yeah.
sense. And I had the Reiki treatment, and I started having these really powerful visions. And I started telling the teacher I'm having these visions, and she didn't say anything at the beginning, but she would write them down.
Mm.
And then one day she turned up at home with a pack of tarot cards and asked me to do a reading for her. And I was like, never touched those before. I'm not going to touch them. Not my thing. And
Yeah.
she goes, no, you got to do them. I said, look, I have never done any readings. She goes, you read for every single client that's been in that room the day that you come for your treatment. And the visions that you have is the solutions to their problems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she'd never told me that as specifically. She had said to me that I'd be on platform and doing readings and healings for people and
Mhm.
coaching people one day, but she had never told me specifically that each vision was an answer to one of the previous clients' problems.
Oh, that's incredible. How did
Yeah.
you feel when you found that out?
All right, didn't believe her. But then she's made me do the reading, and I picked up the cards, started doing the reading, having a bit of a giggle about it.
Hmm.
And I picked up this card, had my eyes shut, going, whatever's going to come, going to come. And then the voice in my head said, look at the card. I looked at the card, and it was a very grey, haggard woman. Like there was no blood in her face. It was just very grey. And these
Yeah.
words started coming and said, this is where you are at the moment. This is your life. You feel overwhelmed. You think that you ought to end it all. And here are your two choices. And then it went through what was been going on in her life, what needed to change. And then the first and second option, and the first option was to step up into her power. And when I did that, the voice said, before you turn up the final card, go back to the first card. And the words that came out was, if you choose option number one, and I looked at the first card, which is grey and haggard, suddenly it was full of color. And this woman was powerful, standing there,
Wow.
radiating, she was like the queen of everything. What the heck? And then now it said, look at the second option for that card, for the second option. And the final card on the first option mirrored that, it amplified it. And the second card was the death card. And it doesn't normally mean death, but it
Yeah.
means you're going to have to start all over again. So in her case, it was, if you don't follow the first path, the option of working through your things, you're going to keep going back and going back and going back. And the same thing will be cycling through you.
Wow.
So that was her thing. That's when I started thinking something is a bit weird here. But it did take me a long time. I mean, that was in 96. It took me till about 2002 after training with Diana Cooper and other people to think, okay, there's something different here. I didn't really go and embrace it straight away. It was like, oh,
Yeah. That's incredible because I think a lot of people may have inklings like this now and don't realize because
no,
even certain things that's happened in my life, when you talked about dreams,
yeah,
in my family, we have a saying like when I dream something that no one wants to know because it kind of happened quite a few times. So now in my family, whenever I tell them I've got a dream, they're like, don't tell me. Because it was really crazy, spooky that it came true a lot of the time. And one time I was in a hotel and there was a lady in the bar and we were just talking and she said, oh, she's psychic. And she said, and so are you too. And I was like, what? And she said, just come here. And she had a husband next to her. And she said, just read him. I was like, what do you mean, just read him? And she was like, just tell me what you think about him. And I was
yeah,
just like, really? And I was thinking that maybe she was a bit drunk or something. I don't know.
yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, okay, let's just have a fun. And I stood there going, okay, you've got a sister who's older. I was just kind of thinking I was guessing.
Wow, yeah,
And then when I finished, then he was like, yeah, that's true. It
fantastic.
is incredible how you can
Incredible.
have inklings. So my question was going to be really, some, how would you know? I guess? How would you, because some people would have certain things in there. Is there
Yeah,
a way that you
I
can
don't know. You
find
know,
out?
we don't know because, like me, if you're the one that just goes, that's normal, but you don't really try it and you don't really push yourself, or you don't have a good coach or a teacher that is holding the space for you, spirit will keep pushing you into opportunities because if you're here to be a reader and a healer, they will put you in situations where the next talent will unfold, the next skill will open up.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's difficult to accept that part of yourself. So for me, there has been always a resistance that I know things and see things.
Yeah.
How would you know? You would have those very powerful dreams.
Hmm.
You would have little confirmations. You know, for me, for instance, my previous dog died about 3 weeks ago. I was drive. She was with me for my birthday in December, and a friend gave me a silver grey star candle, and I'm like, if anybody who knows me, they wouldn't buy me a candle. I was like, why did she buy me a candle? Anyway, she bought me a candle, so I'm grateful. I'm watching it. I'm like, it's a silver star. So I'll show you what it is.
Okay.
Been sitting on my little mantle for ages.
Oh,
And
nice.
okay, so that's lovely, but it's not, I don't generally burn candles in the house.
Okay.
So there with that, and I was like, and then when she passed away, we had to sort of do the cremation, everything else. Then we got this message about this new dog that needed rehoming, and I was thinking, oh, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
To cut a long story short, when we got her, we didn't know her name. Right? She's a
Oh,
beautiful lilac collie, border collie. We
yeah.
didn't know her name. She was very timid. And Monday night, I sat with her last week, giving her hugs, holding her. She was so scared, trying to heal her and everything else. And the name that came to mind was Estrella, which is Spanish for star.
Star.
Yeah. So I started calling her Estrella. And
Yeah.
then the next night, we went to the vets to get them checked over. And she luckily had a chip. And the name on the chip was Star.
No way.
That color. Her fur is that color.
I love the synchronicities of the universe.
That's what it is. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
little things are telling you you're in tune. And sometimes what we need to do is actually concentrate and focus on it and open up and have a dialogue.
Mm.
Me reading is me having a dialogue with spirit.
See, I think with me as well, I like to, when I meditate,
Yeah.
I feel very like that as well. And when someone did Reiki on me for the first time, I had such vivid visions, uh,
Yeah.
which is, I think that it makes me better at what I do. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I feel people, or I feel connections with people, or I can kind of, sometimes when they come, I kind of know what the problem is without even them telling me
Absolutely. That's what I
sometimes.
do. Yeah.
So I think, life puts you through stuff. And a lot of the time you go through stuff, and a lot of people who are listening are going through pain. Does does a lot of time, I know people always get scared about ascending and things because they always think that it comes from a pain place.
Yes.
Do you think it's true? Hard
I don't
question
agree
to
with that.
say.
Okay. I think that we are all powerful all the time.
Mhm.
Okay. The pain is the human interpretation of the experience of reconnection and growth.
Yes. Is it always painful? That was what my question is.
I don't think it's always painful. I think we can choose whether it's painful or joyful.
Yeah.
I think our mind is conditioned to choose one because too many of us have been growing up around survival thinking rather than living, being, and thriving.
Yes. I believe that as well.
So if you're living, being, and thriving, you're being in the moment, you're actually very powerful. You're actually loving everything, every experience. The idea of gratefulness is when you're being in the moment, you see everything and you think, yeah, that doesn't fit comfortably with me. But then you don't go into the judgment of it. You don't go into what does that mean for me? You don't give it meaning. If
Mm.
you don't give it meaning and you just allow yourself to enjoy this moment,
Yes.
that's the bliss. That's the bliss of gratitude. And
Hmm.
there's no pain as you grow.
Yeah. Because I know personally, because a lot of the time for clients of mine, when they're trying to grow or trying to get beyond something, it feels like there's always like a barrier that they have to get beyond first. It's like everything feels like it's falling apart. I say it to clients, I say sometimes you're going to come and your life's going to fall apart, but it has
Yes,
to fall apart as well to build back up differently.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, you're right about the pain. Because I love the gratefulness is really something that I'd heard so much about and I tried to practice it. And it
Yeah.
was only when I started practicing it, which I found it really interesting. Because when I first started gratitude, it was just random stuff you're grateful for. And
Mm.
then as you do it more and more, you realize that you tend to get more grateful for you as a human, for a soul. Like you're grateful for who you are internally, not just like little, like I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my heating. You end up going, I'm grateful for the person I am, or I'm grateful for internal. So I love that with gratitude.
Absolutely. I think the moment that you recognize that your gratitude is actually who you are, it's
Yeah.
not an external thing, that's when everything starts aligning a lot more. Gratitude also separates you from that feeling of loss.
Mm, yes.
Because if you're in the oneness of all that you are, and that is the feeling of bliss that we all have. So I'm the oneness of all that is, you know, and I have no separation because I don't doubt my worthiness. I don't doubt my power. I don't doubt the beauty that I have. I don't doubt the gifts that I have. The doubting is what creates the this alignment, the misalignment that causes the friction, which we think is pain.
Yeah. Well, this is the hardest thing for many people to go through is the not good enough. And everyone's listening today, I'm sure they felt not good enough in one area or another, or feel not good enough in all areas.
Yeah.
What was the kind of things that you would help people with to get over this sort of feelings?
Well, one of the things is the idea and the meaning and the identity we give ourselves and the things. So for me, as I said, I had a really tough time with my relationship. I was very attached to being a certain person in my relationship. So I was the one that was growing. My identity, my ego was, I'm the one that's growing. I'm the one that's doing all the work. And
Me,
then
me,
I was
me.
and I was blaming him for not growing.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing of when you're pointing the finger, remember there's three always pointing back at you. So be mindful, but
Love
don't,
that. Pointing the finger is pointing back at you.
they're always pointing back at you. And those three are probably the places where you need to go to love yourself.
Mm, that is so true.
So I had to love myself and not love myself and use the love to hide my victim self, but love myself and get really, really honest with myself about how I was lying to myself.
Yes.
So the things that I show people is not in a critical way, not in a judgmental way, not in a rejection way. It's like, okay, your opinion matters, but is your opinion correct of you? Because your opinion is giving you meaning and worth in the world.
Yeah. And is it true?
Is it true? And most of the time, if like I said at the beginning, I see this white light around you and that brilliance of you. That's what most of us are. That brilliance where everything exists in equilibrium.
Yeah. That you're
Whether it's
perfect as you are.
exactly there's the shadow or the light. You're perfect as you are. You can embrace the universe because you are the universe. And the pain, maybe you need to feel it because
Mhm.
it's a bit like growing pains. Children have growing pains till they're sort of their 20s sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on how much they're growing. But the growing pains are actually where you're going to expansion.
Yes. I really feel this because the pain, sometimes this is necessary. And
Mm.
a lot of the times, I know working with clients in my practice is that they don't allow themselves to just be or allow themselves to feel emotion because we're told not to or to put on a brave face or especially men, which one has come to you, that they're not allowed to talk about their
No.
feelings. They have to be all like, I'm so brave and I'm so strong. They're allowed to be like upset too.
Macho. I am macho, and because I put on the macho mask, every person has to accept me. I will tell you what it is. I'll tell you how to feel. I'll tell you that feelings are probably not the best thing. So for me, as you said, I'm starting to work with men. I was always working
No.
with men.
With the doggy.
This is Star. This is Star.
Hi, Star.
She really loves a lot of fusses.
Yeah.
So what's been happening? Sadly, my cousin took his own life last year, and
Sorry to hear that.
thank you. He wasn't even 30.
Oh
The
no.
the saddest thing for me was that nobody understood that he was going through a lot of trauma
Yeah.
as a victim of domestic abuse.
Oh.
He could have had an inkling that things weren't working, but people don't dare to interfere.
They say, yeah, leave it, it's behind closed doors, don't get involved. And
Yeah,
sometimes people just need to have someone. We all
Yeah.
need like one person that we can turn to. And for men, it's really hard because my uncle committed suicide when I was younger. And I was really upset because he was like, seemed like the most happiest person in the world. You had no idea that he was ever going to do it. He did it in a way that no one would find him, no one would know. And it was never like a call for help. And then but he did leave a letter, but it was just so shocking that you were close and they thought, why could he not just talk to us? That's what
Absolutely.
bothered me the most is that why could he not have come to us? And I'm sure that's what you're saying now, you get a lot of men who are not allowed to talk.
Men generally are not given the permission to be weak and vulnerable.
Mm. Do you think it's easier when men have partners because they have wives or someone to talk to? Because, we like to talk about emotions.
Depending on the relationship, there was a quote from Brené Brown where she was signing these books for this woman and her daughters, and then her husband waited till the end, and he says, "It's easy for you guys." He says, "You can talk about shame and vulnerability for women, but it's never been addressed for men. I have to 24/7 be the knight in shining armor for my daughters and my wife.
Yes. And
Where
that is
do
so hard.
Yeah. Where do I go with my vulnerability? Where do I go? I can't have shame. I can't show weakness.
Mhm.
I need to be the calling port for every person, every woman that comes to me that wants to just say, hold me, make me feel safe."
Yeah. Who's holding them though? That's what I want to know, you know?
Yeah. So that's where I've started doing the work. It just sort of all happened by accident after my cousin passed and my relationship fell apart. It was like recognizing that I wasn't the safe port for him.
Yeah.
As much as I was showing my weaknesses and my need to be vulnerable with him, I wasn't being safe for either my cousin or for my ex. Luckily, we're still talking. My ex-partner and I, we are in sort of like baby steps of understanding. It's helping me understand and be there more for men. We have this idea that we want to create a new universe where the divine masculine and divine feminine is in balance.
Yeah.
We can't do that if the women are racing ahead.
Yeah. And the women are raising their head at the moment. There's a whole women's movement and women helping women. And even I used to do women only as well. So I know the thing that it is, you have to have a balance in
Yeah,
life.
we
So I
do.
love what you're doing.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I think he'll be very proud as well to hear that you're doing that for him, you know?
I hope so. I mean, I would like to make a difference that no other man has to go through what he went through.
Yes.
You
And that's
know,
it. We just need places that people can talk. And I think it's not only that, but it's the way that we're brought up as well, as a whole, as a society.
yeah,
Um, so I'm doing my charity work at the moment, and I'm trying to get mental health like lessons into schools, like compulsory. And I believe from having this, especially more will affect men actually, because they don't have a place, like you just said to have something like from the young age when you're getting programmed, when you're getting your mindset in order, I think it should be a whole collective of humanity to do this.
I think there needs to be, and well done for you. Well done for
I'm
doing.
trying.
You've had a heck of a story to get to where you go. I've been reading some of your stuff, and you've done a lot, and amazingly well. You've done a lot. Um, but the power of the charity work you do as well, because that's for your son
Yeah,
and people with autism and that
and mental
that
health. Yeah,
very sweetheart
and mental health. I've done it mental
mental
health
health.
as well.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm working with a couple of parents at the moment whose children are autistic. The mental health, not just for the children, but the parents.
The parents are suffering so much. I
Yeah,
do hypnosis on the parents as well, to get them calm. And because that's the thing with them, with having them children who your stress levels are always quite high and they're always in reactive mode. Like, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? Because we're always looking ahead about what could be a trigger, what could be this. So the parents are quite on edge a lot of the time.
yeah, we're
And
hyper vigilant with everything.
yeah, so it's kind of like they're going through like kind of like depression almost, like PTSD, like what's next? And it,
Exactly.
it kind of turns them a bit like their child,
Well,
which,
they have to learn to. That's empathy. That's human
yeah,
empathy. We have to learn to think like the person that's suffering.
yeah. And then you end up turning into them. So,
If you're not doing your own inner work, you end up
yes,
turning
which a
into.
lot of them are not because it's all about the children.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Parents are so sacrificing
yeah,
out
And especially with the autism and ADHD side of things, it's a fight for everything. It's a fight for school. It's a fight to get into school. It's a fight to the government to give you money. Like it's a fight for everything. Transport to get to school. Like it's constant battles that they're doing. And I
Mm.
think the government really have to look at this because it would be nice if they did a whole central government thing for this instead of each council has different rules. Each one has this. You can't go to that one because you're out of borough. It's just a nightmare logistically for these
Yeah.
parents. And I feel like a lot of them are put stress, unnecessary stress on.
Yes, I have one set of parents who've got a possibility of a private school to go to, and
Oh,
they're in a crisis because she's in Scotland and she's in a crisis because she's had her child around children who are in the mainstream.
yeah,
If she suddenly sends her child to a private school, her crisis in her identity and emotional self is they're going to think that I think I'm better than them. They're
yeah,
going to, but who does she think she is, and how, if she can afford that. And so it was totally that competition that leaves you even more vulnerable. So you can't make the best choice for your child. And so I see that there is a need for the governments to get together and say, what can we do across the board
would
for
be.
children, yeah, and for parents. Um,
It's mental health is so in the rise. It's just,
yeah,
it's really, and and even, the mental health in teenagers, the top one is suicide. Like,
yeah,
it's incredible that how many teenagers are suicidal at the moment. Like everybody who is coming to me, all their parents are like, my child wants to kill himself, my child wants to kill himself. And you feel so emotional about it. Like you just
yeah.
can't believe that someone
What
so
would you
small.
recommend as the first thing for a child that wants to kill themselves? What would your
Well, to have someone to talk to straight away, to be honest. A lot of the NHS, they can't get appointments, they can't get therapy, they can't get anything for 6 months. Like people are trying to kill themselves today, not tomorrow, not in 6 months' time.
yeah?
This is what bothers me the most.
So
It really gets my
this is
skin.
the dichotomy of our age. Sorry to interrupt, Louise, but the
That's okay.
dichotomy is we think the internet connects us. We've been given that message, the internet, and it does. It has its blessing. We have the gratefulness, but also the internet has taken away personal connection.
It has. And the humanity, we need the personal connection. We need it for survival. It's like the basic needs of survival.
Absolutely.
And teenagers specifically, they're on their phones, they're on social media so much because they're on it
Mm,
like all day long. And all they're getting is, TikTok, all that sort of thing, where it's you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And it's almost like they're self-harming themselves by being
yeah.
in this world.
Yeah.
Um,
And my first medicine for parents with children who are suffering is actually to take away their
Take
devices.
them off social media, yeah, completely. Because it's people, the teenagers don't realize, or even adults don't realize, that
Mm.
our brain thinks our phone keeps us safe. That's why
Yes,
we're addicted to it.
absolutely.
Because if you lose your phone, the first thing you think is, how am anyone going to know if I'm all right? You're not
Yeah,
thinking about Facebook, but so your mind has automatically made your phone feel like you have to have it.
yeah, yeah,
So it's
absolutely. Well, the phone has the systems on the phone's told your mind this
yeah,
is what I want to
it's going to keep
think.
you safe,
Trying
going
to
to keep you
narrate
safe.
that
Yeah,
story.
so you're
Uh,
addicted.
and in the same way, the men that I work with, they have this identity that if I keep my secrets, I'm safe.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
yes.
my secret is, I don't have the tools to deal with this shame. I don't feel like I'm good enough. My partner wants me to fix everything, like that gentleman with his daughters. My partner and my wife want me to fix anything, be a knight in shining armor. I don't have all the answers. Where do I go?
Yeah.
I have to keep it secret because if they find out that I'm weak and vulnerable, I won't be loved anymore. I
Yeah.
won't be enough anymore.
Well,
And those things, so for me, if I was ruling the world, my thing would be compulsory community meetings, meet people, just meet
yes.
people.
People, connections. That's
People,
it.
real physical in the presence people. Don't
Yeah.
hide yourself away. Your phone can be the secondary tool that you can play with if there are people around that can engage with you that are also there in person.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be the main communication form that we have.
And it is. And that this is what, and a lot of time they've taken themselves out from meeting people as well
Yeah,
because they're going through that. And
absolutely.
it is the quickest way to get your mind back on track is to make connections
Yes,
in real life.
human
Um,
life. Absolutely.
when
We've had,
I do like the art therapy for the children where they come together
yes,
and in real life. And then that's really been good because sometimes you just need people to talk to.
yeah,
And
absolutely. And just be in the presence of people.
yeah,
You know how much safety the nervous system picks up? if you're in the presence of somebody who is non-judgmental, who just has a presence, if they have a frightened presence, it's not that safe. If they have a scary presence, it's not that safe. But just to know that people are around, there
Yeah.
is a nervous system part of you that just goes, there's a person there, I'll be okay.
Breathe. I can breathe now. Yeah. Yeah. I think because a lot of the time, the things that what I've done in the charity is the most effective is being there just as a mentor, not even as a therapist, just someone who's there just to know.
It's a safe place, as I said, safe
Yeah.
for each
So,
other.
so how are you helping men now?
It's one-to-one coaching. I either meet you in person or do a Skype session with you. What I do is help you feel your vulnerability, most of them.
Yeah.
For
Allow
example,
it.
yeah,
Feel it and allow it to be. Yeah.
one of the men, he was married for over 40 years, but he was never vulnerable with his partner.
Mm.
Broke up, and then suddenly he found that he met somebody on a dating thing, he couldn't perform. And he thought that he was no longer a man because he couldn't perform.
Oh, that's
So
common.
yeah, his identity was, I'm a man because of this. But actually helping him understand what other things make him a man. So
Mm.
embrace all the things that he is, other than just the physical act of sex or whatever, or carrying the bags, or doing the household chores that are assigned to him, doing the
Picking out the
electricity.
bins.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's more to you.
Yeah.
Your presence, your conversation, your opinion, the way you might pick up a hammer and do something or not do that, do the gardening, whatever, that is what gives you value. So I help them find their own value and find better ways of communicating their needs.
And do you help them communicate their needs to the partners in their life? Because I know you said that you're was it your did had was not in a good relationship?
Yes. So it's a lot about the communication with the needs. It's a lot about understanding your history and knowing where your history is playing a part in the present.
Like where your old trauma is coming from?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm bringing in that. For me, unfortunately, I brought a lot of it because I was betrayed by my ex constantly. So I brought a lot of that betrayal
Yeah.
into the relationship, and I was always on the defensive, and
Looking out for
yeah,
signs.
when's that going to happen? And it doesn't build a good foundation. It doesn't build a trusting foundation.
Yeah.
So having to heal that, and a lot of the time it's, one of the things that one of the gentlemen said was not just about what his identity is. It's like, so I'm allowed to pick for myself what I do, because he was so controlled by his partner.
Oh wow.
I'm allowed to say I can go to work today because I like my job, or I'm allowed to change my job.
That's incredible.
Incredible. So being able to get him to embrace a different idea of what he could do for himself and
Mm.
live, those are the things that I do. So through healing, through tapping, through psychospiritual work, we do a lot of inner introspective
Yeah.
questions and meditating in that way, and then re-embody through visualization what it is that you're not letting yourself do. So basically, I look at the kind of language you're looking at yourself, how you're beating yourself up, how to clear that out energetically and mentally with the mind work and energy work. Then we create a new version of you, a new vision of who would you be in your wholeness.
I love that. I love the visions of who you would be as a perfect idea of you.
Exactly. You become so liberated when you're given that permission, like the gentleman, I'm allowed to choose for myself. Of course you are. You're allowed to choose for yourself.
Yeah.
And then finally, we anchor in tools to create new habits. So
Mm.
I use energetic tools, I use artwork, I use mind tools. So it depends on what skills that person
Has,
wants
I guess,
to
to
utilize.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
what kind
Yeah.
of tools could you like? Could you recommend one now for someone that's listening? Just something that's easy that anyone can use. That's general.
Yeah. Doodling.
So like,
Get a load of pens, get a pen and a piece of paper, and just doodle and just see to yourself, does this give me peace?
mm,
Because while you're doodling, all those subconscious thoughts that are having a go at you will come up.
yeah,
Or they'll soothe down, and your body will feel differently. If it's soothing you, you'll just suddenly go, wow, I can be calm.
yeah.
And the calmness lets you heal parts of
Mm.
yourself. If your suddenly mind is very active and you become aware and you speak back to you the words that your mind is telling you, you suddenly become even more aware. It's like speaking at yourself in a mirror, telling yourself, you're no good, you're wasting time, why are you doing this? you become aware of those, then you can actually start binning them. What I do is I get them to write those words down, either burn them or bin them, literally bin
Yeah, I
them.
bet I make them burn them.
Yeah. It's like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Sometimes I've what done is that do the burning, then I get them to write the opposite or the one that's going to be a healing word,
Yeah.
turn it into a paper boat and go and sail it.
Yeah. I have a meditation that I do with that,
Yeah.
like a sailing boat where I put it in a paper, I fold it and I put it in the lake and then I put and it goes and it was
Oh, how
one of the
beautiful.
most loveliest ones that I
Yeah.
remember. It was the most powerful one that I ever did for myself. And I just remember laying there like every time I see a lake, I think of it as well. So I see it going away.
That's brilliant because that's the thing. It's got to be habit. It's got to be habitual. So when they see the boat, it's not just done once.
Yes.
Open
Yeah.
it, you've got to remember it. You can keep telling yourself, oh yeah, that's what it was. That.
Mhm.
The other thing I get them to do is I get them to record kind words to themselves.
I love that. I do that. I've got a whole recording about
Yeah,
me because your
really.
subconscious mind's going to listen to you more than
Absolutely.
somebody
And
else.
it's already listening to you. It's already listening to the
Yeah.
negative messages you're sending yourself. So what you're doing is when you wake up, when you're walking or when you're just driving or whatever, you listen to your voice telling you how amazing you are.
Yeah.
That gratefulness we talked about a few
Yeah.
minutes ago is that I'm allowing myself to be filled up with the greatness of me. That's the gratefulness I want
Yeah.
of me. When you go to bed, you put that on. So that's one of the tools. Um, One of the other tools is actually to get yourself to bed early.
Wow. We had someone on the podcast recently, a sleep expert, and she said this as well. And I do this with clients too. When they first come to me, I check their sleeping habits straight away because
Yeah.
I believe it's like the foundation. It's not like a pillar, it's the foundation of your mental health. That you can't get anything better unless you're well rested.
Most people would tell you, I can't go to sleep.
Yeah, I know. I deal with so much insomnia people, and it's never the sleep that's the problem. It's something internally that's going on.
Yeah.
They're
And
my
it's,
most interesting cases, actually, the ones that come from sleep.
oh, yes, there's so much that's going on. And some people actually with the sleep, um, they create their own monsters.
Yeah.
So they go to sleep thinking about what didn't go right, what's going to go wrong in the morning,
Mm.
freaking themselves because something isn't in place that needs to be.
Ah, I see what you mean. Yeah, so it's in their mind as they're sleeping.
Yeah.
I put suggestions in my mind before I go to bed about my goals and my dream life, and I do that before I go to bed to try and let my subconscious work it out while I'm asleep.
And then you'll find that the more regularly you do that, that's the habit creating. The more
Yeah,
regularly you do it, you've got to make yourself
I
do
do it
it.
every day.
We're terrible at taking the right medicine for ourselves. Then I'm one to talk. The medicine that I need is actually kindness. And
Mm.
that kindness works and moves mountains. But if you can just put that little recording on and tell yourself, or the visualization on and tell yourself what it is that you want to see, feel, and be, that will stop the monsters waking up at night.
Yes, I love that.
Really,
So
really.
who do you think has been your favorite person to work with?
Oh my God, there's so many hundreds and thousands. How do I pick? Um, this is so difficult.
Favorite outcome, maybe.
Favorite outcome. Um, Favorite outcome. This couple, but one was because I do a lot of manifestation work as well. So one was this lady who felt so victimized by her ex-partner and his mother. And they were sort of basically trying to get her out with nothing.
Mm.
And she had me on speed dial in the courtroom when they were settling the case.
Right.
So every 2 minutes they'd get to a place, she'd be freaked out. She'd be like, I need help. And we would fine tune her energy, her vision, and everything to the perfect outcome.
Yeah.
That marriage ended with such love between them, even though they were in court arguing and fighting, and the husband's family had done a lot to hide everything, all the assets.
Oh,
That case, holding the energy, holding the vision, just being that for her. Every 15 minutes, she'd be on the phone. What do I do now? My energy's falling. Boost up the energy, get her vision going.
yeah.
The outcome is they ended up bringing up the daughter together. They ended up creating more businesses together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got the settlement, they got the separation, but the respect between them just grew and keeps growing.
That is incredible. Because a lot of time, when people are divorcing, there's hatred, there's anger, there's especially with children, and then the money, you could begrudge the person trying to take the money from you and your child. So
Mhm.
to be able to go from that to happiness, that's incredible.
So that's probably one of my favorites because
I can
just
see why.
having somebody trust you in sort of what we think is the life and death of, am I going to be able
Mm,
to survive after this? Is everything going to be taken away from me?
yeah.
And not only was nothing taken away from her, but more was brought into the relationship to make it
Mm,
loving separation where they were still best friends, but they didn't need to be in relationship with each other.
that's incredible. I love that.
And they have an amazing child. She's an amazing leader for children now. That is the embodiment of what you were saying before. Does ascension have to be painful?
Yes. See, it could be painful at the beginning, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go that way.
Ah, that's incredible. I
Um,
love having you on and sharing all your stories.
I have to
Um,
talk to you for hours, Louise. Thank you
I
so much.
could actually, I could for a long time. So before we go, I just wanted to say, would you like to leave anyone with last kind of tips
Just
to prime their mind, I guess, for success, like in life? What would be the one thing?
here's the thing. We race against time. We think that we have to be a superhero to stop ourselves feeling the pain. So
Mm.
as soon as we get a chance to be still, instead of being still, we send the mind out like a superhero looking for problems. Your body's here in the car driving, and your superhero is out there jetting around. Will there be a problem with my mother-in-law? Will there be a problem with so and so? So it's like slow the superhero down. Make the superhero sit down next to you in the car and say, "So you are my superhero."
Maybe get him changed back into his old other clothes. Clark Kent with his glasses on.
If you're more powerful as a human being than your mind believes it is as a superhero.
Yes.
So
Uh,
that gratefulness of I'm here, I'm fine, I'm cool, I'm calm.
Yeah,
I don't need to race against time. If I can just say it's what's causing me the discomfort is racing against time and creating the stories. But if I
yeah.
can just sit here with myself,
Just be in your body and your soul of who you are without needing to be.
breathe, yeah, breathe, love yourself, be there, and just say, what can I admire about me right now? What can I admire about this vision right now? I might be in traffic jams, but what's it given me? It's given me time to gather my thoughts and just be in the moment.
Yeah, or just singing a song in the car.
I, the music's my thing. I put the
Me
music
too. I have to
down.
have music on all day long in my house. Thank you so much for joining me. You're so insightful. There's so much you could ask. If anyone wants to connect with her, because I'm sure you're going to have lots more questions, and she's an incredible soul. You can see that from her energy as well. So it's been a privilege to have you here, and thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity to speak to you.
You're welcome.
Like this, instead of just like casual messages and
Yeah,
things.
it's nice.
Guys, thank you so much for this opportunity. I do
You're
hope.
welcome. You're welcome. Good luck in
Hallelujah.
all your future, what you're doing with the men. So well
And
done.
you too. Keep
All
up
right.
everything you're doing.
Thank
Bye,
you. Bye.